Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid, walam yulad, walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Sadaqallahu azim. Dear friends, first thing that today I welcome you all, particularly Professor Javed Ahmed Khan Sahab, who will be presiding over this session, and our speaker today, Dr. Kalim Alam, who is joining us from Jeddah, and all those friends who joined already and are joining, all are welcome here. Just to start with something, I would like to set the ball rolling. Like when intellectualism and rationalism asserts the political wisdom plays its own game, we are not exception to this phenomena. We have heard, studied and read much more on Islamic banking or finance. In the era of economic turmoil all over the world, where the prevailing system seems to be crumbling, there is increasing debate going all over to look for a better humane system which can resurrect the humanity from this mess. Well, there could be other participants, but Islamic finance or banking has its own offering. A glimpse of that can be seen in today's theme, which reads, I think I found it very, very informative. So bear with me. I will read those words, which are very well. Today's theme is Musharakah. Musharakah is a word of Arabic origin which literally means sharing. In the context of business and trade, it means a joint enterprise in which all the partners share the profit or loss of the joint venture. It is an ideal alternative for interest-based financing with far-reaching effects on both production and distribution. In the modern capitalist economy, interest is the sole instrument indiscriminately used in financing or every type. Since Islam has prohibited interest, this instrument cannot be used for providing funds for any kind. Therefore, Musharakah can play a vital role in an economy based on Islamic norms. It's taken from one of the intellectuals, Alim Taqi Usmani Sahab, who wrote it in 1999. So, dear friends, before starting, I would like to request Professor Javed Ahmed Khan to preside over this session. Please take your seat, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Now we are coming to our speaker today, Dr. Kalim Alam, and it's my duty to properly introduce you. And bear with me, I will read his details. Dr. Kalim Alam is a researcher in Department of Islamic Finance and advisor, international collaboration at Islamic Economics Institute, IEI, King Abdulaziz University, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. He is also responsible coordinating the activities of Saudi Spanish Center for Islamic Economics and Finance at Madrid, Spain. And earlier, he was also coordinating the activities of Chair for Ethics and Financial Norms at Paris, France, since its inception. He holds PhD in Commerce from TMBU, India, MBA Finance from Coventry University in United Kingdom, and BBA from IIUM, Malaysia. Earlier, he has worked with Janin Publications and Media Private Limited, Ministry of Awqaf Kuwait, College of Business Administration, now University of Business and Technology, Institute of Objective Studies, etc. He has taught management, international business and trade, international finance and marketing. His interests include Islamic banking and finance, central banking, strategic studies, development, management, planning, feasibilities, conceptual visualization, business and finance. So we have a person here speaking to us, sharing his views, his knowledge with us, who fortunately got exposed to the international environment, institutions, the political world all over, particularly the hotbed of uh, this subject, the Arab world, and he has a deep study and knowledge of what's happening on Islamic finance and Islamic banking all over. And definitely we will be looking for some hints from Dr. Kalim Alam, what he thinks about India as a potential opportunity for that Islamic fund, which is, I think, if I'm not wrong, somewhere around $2+ trillion economy. And India has a huge potential. Still, we are striving to convince the political leadership or the intellectual group that yes, there is a potential, there is a system which can help India to resurrect its economy from the mess. Without taking much more time, I would like to request and call today's speaker, Dr. Kalim Alam. Over to you, Dr. Kalim Alam.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulih al-Kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ala man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. I would firstly thank Dr. Sheikh Nizamuddin and Dr. Professor Javed Ahmad Saab. Dr. Nizam has Sheikh Nizam Saab has given a very elaborate introduction. I'm not a very big expert. I'm just still learning. There is a lot of things to learn in the Islamic finance, and which is an evolving subject globally now. I would seek the permission to share the screen.
Yes, please go on.
It is they have to enable it.
Atta. Ataur Rahman is taking care of that.
Yeah, I put a lot of effort.
I have share allowed.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So the topic, as Dr. Sheikh Nizam has read, it is Musharakah. Musharakah, I mean, day before yesterday, I was talking to my elder brother, and he felt that the word is very heavy for him to understand what it is, Musharakah. And so he said to make it easy to explain and for most of the people to understand. Musharakah, as he said, I mean, It's very simple. It's not that complicated as it looks to many. We'll just see how. Let me adjust this. I'm having problem with this side screen. Okay. Okay. Musharakah, as explained earlier, is an Arabic origin word, and its root is Shin, Ra, and Ka, Sharaka, meaning to share, being a partner, which is literally means sharing. In simple words, I mean, if you translate Musharakah, it is a partnership. It's in simple, it is a Musharakah, which is a partnership. Musharakah is, in simple words, is a partnership or joint enterprise. This will be the focus of our discussion. The same root word is also root word for the shirk. And that's why every one of us know what is shirk. That is assigning a partner to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this only refers to the worship in Islam, as none can be worshipped beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No partner, and He is one and only. The same word shirk exists in the English dictionary, having an interesting meaning. An American, that this means to avoid discharging work or a duty, or to evade. Similar meaning is in the British dictionary, to negate, evade, doing something which should be done. There is a hadith Qudsi reported by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah had said that I am a third of the partners, as long as any one of them does not betray the other. If he, she does betray the other, I will withdraw from them. That means the blessings. Though some have questioned the chain of narration, but many have qualified it as Hasan based on other hadiths and Quranic reference. In other words, honest musharakah partnership will be blessed. Riba, which is not our topic, but that's an important reason why musharakah is important, or why we go for musharakah. Riba is haram, there is no doubt. I'll not be going into much of the detail. Reason for it being haram is well known, but let me just remind you two things. One is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declared war on riba in Surah Baqarah. And He has, O believers, fear Allah and give up the outstanding interest if you are true believers. If you do not, then beware of the war with Allah and His Messenger. But if you repent, you retain your principle, neither inflicting nor suffering harm. So this is an important ayah which we must keep reminding everyone that it's a declaration of war. So we cannot even think of going near to it. And then this is another ayat in the same Surah Baqarah. Those who consume interest will stand on the judgment day like those driven to madness by shaitan. Such. That is because they say trade is no different than interest. But Allah has permitted trading and forbidden interest. Whosoever refrains from having received warning from their Lord may keep their previous gains, and their case is left to Allah. As for those who persist, it is they who will be residents of fire. They will be there forever. Now this trade is where the musharakah comes in. So engagement in trade should be our motto. Why do we need a partnership? It is needed to when we have limitations. The most common limitations are financial, and the second is knowledge of know-how and experience. Partnership provides a solution to all sorts of limitations. In fact, Musharakah partnership are not complicated as this seems to be to many. It provides sea of opportunities. Broadly, in Islamic finance, we can divide finance into two types of contracts: sales contract, partnership contract. I'll be just going quickly over these nomenclatures and terminologies. Let's define partnership and musharakah. Partnership defined by Indian Partnership Act, Section 4. Partnership is the relationship between persons who have agreed to share the profit of the business carried on by all or any of them acting for all. Persons who have entered into the partnership with one another are called individually partners, collectively a firm, and the name under which their business is carried on is called the firm name. Now, Musharakah defined by the Bank Nagara, in their section 10, Musharakah is also partnership, but yeah, I'm just trying to highlight the difference. They write Musharakah with their Y instead of H, which we normally use. The Malaysian spelling, they have put that as a spelling for the Musharakah, refers to partnership between two or more parties whereby all parties will share the profit and bear the loss from the partnership. Now, this is an important thing. Mostly the loss part is not highlighted in many of the definitions. As you can observe, that the willingness to bear loss is mentioned in the definition itself, and that's important fact of the real life economics. Profit and loss sharing is the core identity of the Musharakah. Musharakah can be further divided into two types. Shirk al-Milk, in Urdu we say milkiyat. Partnership in joint ownership refers to possession of the assets of two or more persons with or without prior arrangement to enter into a sharing in joint ownership. Under the Shirk al-Milk, each partner's ownership is mutually exclusive. In this regard, one partner cannot deal with the other partner asset without the latter's consent. Shirk al-Aqd, contractual partnership, which is the main part of our Musharakah here, refers to the contract executed between two or more partners to venture into business activities to generate profit. Under Shirk al-Aqd, a partner is an agent of the other partner. In this regard, the conduct of one partner in ordinary course of business represents the partnership. Shirk al-Aqd can be divided into further three. One is Shirk amwal, that is partnership in trade, capital, and agreement between two or more persons to invest a sum of money as capital in a business and share its profit according to the agreement. Sharika al-Amal, partnership in service, labor, a partnership in which the partners agree to share what they earn by their labor. Sharika al-Wujud, that is partnership in goodwill, an agreement between the two or more persons of good reputation to form a partnership to purchase an asset or assets on a credit for the purpose of making profit, whereby the partners undertake to fulfill their obligation according to the percentage agreed by the partners. But all the three of them can be also mixed. It's not necessary, it has to be an exclusive partnership. It can be mixed. Someone can be a capital donor and the labor and the goodwill, or all the three, or any two, whatever is suitable. And that's why the Musharakah or partnership is something which is open, and it gives a sea of opportunities of how we deal with it. Musharakah concept is very simple. I'm not reading the first line anyway. The Musharakah concept is very simple and adoptable. We need to take care of certain guidelines. Simple ones, which I'll be covering today. The principles contract, and then rules of the Prophet, rules of loss. Contract. Contract in Islam is very important. And we have all sort of contracts. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to, it's a very lengthy ayat, which I have tried to reduce it. O believers, when you contract a loan for a fixed period of time, commit it to writing. Let scribe maintain justice between the parties. The scribe should not refuse to write as Allah has taught them to write. Call upon two of your men to witness. The witness must not refuse when they are summoned. You must not be against writing contracts for a fixed period, whether the sum is small or great. This is more just for you in sight of Allah, and more convenient to establish evidence and remove doubts. However, if you conduct an immediate transaction among yourselves, then there is no need for you to record it. Let no harm come to the scribe or witness. If you do, then you have gravely exceeded your limits. Be mindful of Allah. Now, this is the most important thing which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us, that we have to put it in writing. Put things, whenever we enter into an agreement and understanding, we have to put it in, especially when there is an obligation in the future that must be put in writing. Writing a contract is important for conflict avoidance, and availability of witness always helps in keeping at bay the thoughts of breaking the agreement. And that's why the witnesses are important. Contract cannot be of anything haram, illegal or harmful. Now, when we are writing a contract for musharakah or for that reason, for anything, it cannot be haram. It cannot be even illegal. If the law of the land prohibits a particular activity, then that will not be acceptable, or anything which is harmful. This is a maxim, which is all the conditions agreed upon by Muslims are upheld, except a condition which allows what is prohibited or prohibits what is lawful. A profit amount cannot be fixed for a partner. And this is an important thing, since if you're fixing a profit for a partner, irrespective of loss or irrespective of how much profit is made, then it becomes simile of the interest or the riba. So we cannot put that in the contract. So anything halal and legal mutually agreed by partners can be part of the contract agreement. And that is musharakah. Everything which is halal and legally possible can be you can enter into musharakah partnership for it. Profit sharing. The profit share is not corresponding to the capital invested. Now this is when you are, if you are putting 15% of the capital, that does not mean that your share in the profit will be 15%. It can be more than that. So there are some people, some scholars who have reservation on that, but logically, and most of them, the scholars, they agree that it can be different. And there is one school which says that you cannot have a percentage. If you are a sleeping partner, you cannot have a percentage greater than your percent. So if you are a sleeping partner and you have a 15% capital, you can, according to the scholar, you cannot charge You cannot expect more than 15%, but I think even that is possible depending on the importance of the sleeping partner. There are some who believe the percentage of the sleeping partner should not exceed the percentage of the capital invested by the sleeping partner. I believe any mutually agreeable percentage should be fine. Musharakah and share loss. Loss sharing. Loss will be proportional to the percentage of the investment. That is, each will bear the loss based on the percentage of the capital invested. No one will bear extra percentage. That is, as per the loss sharing, it is not as per the agreed percentage, or it will be only based on the percentage of the capital invested. So if these are the basic rules which has to be followed, and that's simple musharakah. This is just put a diagram where two partners are there. They invested their capitals, each of them. Partnership is formed, and they share their profit as per the agreed percentages. And in case if they incur loss, then it will be based on their capital invested. Profits are shared as per the agreed ratio. Losses are shared as per the ratio of the capital contributed. Musharakah Mutanaqisa. Now this is important, which we'll go in a little bit in detail. This is diminishing partnership. And this perhaps could answer the question which the Sheikh Nizamuddin put forward. It can play a very important role. I mean, even the bankers in India and the financiers, they can adopt this especially in the sector of real estate and the housing properties. It is widely being used. Here a partner share gets diminishing while other partners gain. Diminishing partnership musharakah is mostly used for the purpose of financing of fixed assets. It will be good even in Indian context for housing finance. Here a buyer contact the financer bank for financing a house. Assuming the buyer has a capacity to pay 25% cost of the target, it should be target house, the financer would fund the rest, that is 75%. So now they are jointly owners of the property, 25% the buyer and the 75% the financer, which is bank or financing institution, whatever it is. It is also called as Shirka al-Milk. Shirak al-Milk. Now the financer has to gradually transfer his share of property to the buyer. The two partners agree on a monthly sum based on the capacity of the buyer. For the sake of the transferring, the partners will enter into other contracts such as leasing contract, selling contract. That is when they want to transfer, when the financier has to transfer his share of the property, which is pre-agreed. In practice, from what I know, the financier would divide his share to number of units to suit the capacity of the buyer. And they agree to the rental or supposed rental income from the house to be shared as per the ownership percentage. So the buyer keeps buying the units from the financer and sharing the rent until he has bought all the shares of the financer. Here it should be from the buyer. The buyer would be buying from the financer. Let's assign numbers. Let's assume the house is worth 2 million rupees, that is 20 lakhs. I hope I'm going okay. It's clear, I think, so far. Sheikh Nizamuddin Saab.
Yes, please go on it.
Okay.
Very good.
Now, assuming that the property is worth 20 lakhs, buyer pays 25%, that is worth rupees 500, that is 5 lakhs, while the financer has paid rupees 15 lakhs, 75% of. So let's assume that the buyer thinks he can buy the 75% share of the financer, which is 15 lakh in 10 years period. So the financer will divide his share to the property to 120 units. That is 10 years into 12 months. That will become the monthly installments. Accordingly, the buyer would be buying the units share from the financer on monthly basis. In effect, increasing his shares and reducing the share of the financer. So the rupees 15 lakh would be monthly installment of rupees 12,500 a month. So a price of the one unit is 12,500 rupees, which will be fixed. After 10 units, that is in 10 months, after 10 units are bought at rupees 120,000, it should be 125,000. The share of the buyer improves to 31.25%. The financer makes his profit from lease rental agreement. The financer doesn't make any profit from that. He's just getting his investment back, but he makes profit from the lease agreement, which he enters separately with the buyer. Now, assuming the rental for the property is rupees 10,000, which can be reviewed annually, since the buyer is 25% owner of in the first month, he would take rupees 2,500 as his share of the rent, and the financer would collect rupees 7,500 as his share. After 10 months, the buyer will pay rupees 6,875 and keep 3,125. So even the buyer's rental income has increased here. It is the changes because now he is after 10 months, as we have seen in the earlier slide, he is 31.25% owner of the property. As the share of the financer in the property keeps reducing, so is his rental income, which obviously may change depending on the rise and fall of the rental value of the property. So it is mutually beneficial to both. Once all the units are bought by the buyer, the property becomes of the buyer and the partnership ends. But in case the buyer is unable to buy further after buying 40 units, just for an example, that will be 50% ownership, then they can sell the house and share the income based on the ownership of the house after deducting the costs. Assuming the property has appreciated to rupees 30 lakhs, the cost of selling the house and a month pending rent, for example, is rupees 200,000, that is 2 lakhs. Here, both the parties would divide the 28 lakhs and both would receive rupees 14 lakhs in their respective accounts. Obviously, that is subject to the taxation laws. Now, this is just a flow chart. Now, the buyer contacts the bank, and the banks buys the property from the seller and leases it back to the buyer, and buyer pays lease to the bank, and the bank at the end transfers the ownership. The ijara can be used by various financing activities. We will take the example of the housing of, I think the earlier example should have been Mr. Khan when he approaches, I'll skip this. The bank continuously transfers the percentage of the ownership of the flat in proportion to the agreed amount received when the full sales agreed amount is received. Mr. Khan can become 100% owner of the flat. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala adds another ayah in Surah Baqarah in continuation with the issue of riba and the loans. And he says if it is difficult for someone to repay a debt, postpone it until a time of ease. And if you waive, it is an act of charity. It will be better for you if only you knew. And then currently we are going through this phase of unease. Now, dissolution of Musharakah. Under the following circumstances, the Musharakah contract will be considered dissolved. One is mutual agreement to terminate, expiry of contract, pre-agreed date, demise or dissolution of partners, loss of legal capacity, the total acquisition of one partner of the other partner's share, invalidity of the Musharakah. Now there is another part of the Musharakah which is Mudaraba. I'll go through it quickly. Mudaraba, or you call it passive partnership. This is a special partnership where one party is financer, Rabbul Mal, and the other is expert, manages the business, not employee, called Mudarib. Mudarib invests his energy and time to make the venture successful, while Rabbul Mal invests agreed capital to the venture. Below given chart would give you an idea of the partnership. Mudaraba, here there are two partners. They enter into, one is Abul Mal, which is providing capital. The other is Mudarib, who is providing the labor, and they form a partnership. They share the profit as per the agreed percentage. They can agree into anything, which is whatever they think appropriate for themselves. But the loss will be shared, will be borne only by the financer. The financial is called Rabbul Mal. Entrepreneur is called Mudarib. It is important for this contract to be valid. Both the parties agree clearly on the following. That is, capital to be invested, profit sharing ratio. Loss are borne by the financer entirely. Now that concludes the simple part, but why do partnership fail? Which is an important issue globally. Primarily because of the lack of trust. Trust deficit is always there. It can be because of the illegal activity or unethical activities. Illegal activity, very different quality standards, uneven division of labor, financial difficulties, one-man upmanship, and partners refusing to discuss the details. So while choosing a partner, one has to exercise a lot of efforts in choosing a partner. Thank you. Yes. Now, if there is any question, I'll be happy to answer.
So is it possible for us to have your slides?
Say again?
Would it be possible to have your slides, sir?
Slides on the display.
Yes. If it could be emailed to us, it would be
But better you
much
ask
help.
question here. Question is more important at the time. Slides are not very difficult to get. Main point is, if there is any observation, comment on Dr. Kaleem's lecture, that is very valuable at this time. Of course, you can share.
Inshallah.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
It's just from the top of my head. Forgive me if it's a little, if it's not the best. But I'm a little concerned. I'm just wondering if one was to try to get investors from another country into one's country, in terms of Mudaraba, what would be the best way of attracting investors? What would be your take on this? Considering the constraints a certain country would have, but yet the country wishes to bring in investors. Would you have any suggestions as to how one could make this an attractive business partnership?
It's a very wide open question.
Yes, it is. I know.
They have not specified the industry. I mean, it depends. I mean, it's depends on obviously the interest of your financer. I think you're talking about financer from abroad.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So for him to primarily invest, he should be satisfied of where he is going.
Okay. So transparency would be really important, wouldn't it?
Transparency is between you and the partner you are trying to bring.
Right.
But more than that, what do you think will be attracting their partner? Why would he come, for example, to India, let's say from the Arab world or anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
What will make it attractive to him? Talking from a political and especially from a Muslim angle, especially if you're talking about from Arabia, then the situation there is not conducive.
Mm-hmm.
So our national governments has to make it. Every investor, firstly, he looks for a country which is that's lethal.
Yes, I'm looking in terms of the Far East, for example, Malaysia as opposed to Singapore. Singapore as opposed to Malaysia. Singapore is more expensive, whereas Malaysia is much cheaper. But then again, Singapore is safe. It's more transparent than Malaysia can ever be. So would a Middle Eastern, an Arab investor choose Singapore over Malaysia, even though it's a more expensive place to invest?
It depends. It depends on the cost and the profitability. I know a lot of Singaporean institutions which are moving to Kuala Lumpur because it's cheaper compared to the cost borne by in Singapore.
Yes.
Even to employ it is expensive there, and living cost is very high.
Yes.
So it all depends on how the investors normally, why would they invest? The primary reason for investment is to make a profit.
Yes. Yes.
So it depends on how they look at it and what is required.
Right.
For example, for the software, a lot of companies have come to India because the talent pool is available here.
Yes. Yes. Of course.
So it's all subjective, depending on the industry and the subject which we are.
Okay. Yes, of course. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate
all
it.
that. it is the duty of the government, which, I mean, since we are talking about international trade, the duty of
Yeah.
the governments of respective country to make it attractive, and it cannot be attractive when there is a lot of unease in the place. I mean, if I feel uncomfortable, I mean, I wouldn't go to Venezuela because
Yeah.
there is a lot of unease there. You'll not
Yeah.
feel comfortable even if the living standard is quite cheaper, even all the facilities provided is good, but you will not feel ease in entering into such places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sir Abdul Ali Sahab, ask your question.
Yes. Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Just I wanted to know. See, Mudaraba and Musharakah.
Yeah.
It is not exactly the same, but there is a difference between them. And if there is any example of Mudaraba that took place in the lifetime of the Prophet.
Mudaraba, Musharakah. Mudaraba comes under Musharakah. It's a sort of a partnership where, and it definitely took place. I mean, if you look at the trade which the caravans with the Quraysh used to take to different parts of the world, and the Prophet ﷺ worked for the Khadija radiallahu anha. He was his mudarib, and Rabbul Mal, which is the investor, was Khadija radiallahu anha. So he himself was involved into it.
So whether this type of partnership existed in the pre-Islamic period also?
Yes, yes, it did. Even
It was prevalent there.
But the conditions after Islam has come, there are certain conditions which is it has to be halal.
It
makes it a little bit different. You cannot enter into a partnership in which, for example, you are it's being harmful, or you are trying to enslave and so on. This was also a part of the trade in earlier. I mean, the investors would pay, and some other person would go and capture the people and enslave them. This cannot be allowed in the Mudaraba agreement after the Islam. Similarly, any other which is illegal, as I mentioned in my slides earlier, if it is illegal, if it is haram, if it is harmful, then we cannot accept it as a contract under the Islamic law, under the Mudaraba.
Then the ratio of profit or loss, when that is decided, that is only that depends upon their consent. Are there any rules for that?
It's all between them.
Between them.
Between them.
Okay, thank you.
But loss in Mudaraba will be borne purely by the financer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
करीम साहब, दो सवालात हैं चैट बॉक्स में, युशरा जैनब साहिबा के और मीर फजल हुसैन के. जरा देख लीजिए, लास्ट में है.
I cannot see the.
Okay. Then I will read it out. There is a question from Yusra Zainab, and her question is, why, despite the wide range of transactions that can be undertaken in a Musharakah model, there are not many Musharakah contracts present in the Islamic financial industry comparing with Murabaha? Is there a lack of demand? What could be the possible reason?
I couldn't get it fully. Is it in the question answer?
No, it's in chat box.
Is in chat.
Unfortunately, I cannot see the chat box.
Should I repeat?
If you can post it in the question answer, I can see the question answer.
Yeah, this is another question in question answer box.
Professor Abdul Ali has a question that
already.
Any example of Mudaraba?
He has already asked the question.
Okay. There is another question from Brother Rafiq, and his question is
Musharakah different from investment?
Yes.
Through investment through equity partnership in contemporary financial markets. I mean, as soon as you add the word partnership, it is musharakah.
Okay.
So it's not different. It depends on what are the agreements. I mean, equity in Shirkal milk, it is ownership of and through equity is a percentage where you own. Now, if you could have been more specific, Mr. Rafiq, I could have explained you further. But it is part of it, part of the Musharakah. It depends on what sort of agreement the people have entered. I mean, joint stock companies can also be put into it. And Yusra, why, despite the wide range of transactions that can be undertaken in Musharakah model, there are not many Musharakah contracts present in the Islamic financial industry compared with Murabaha? Is there lack of demand? Musharakah is there. Musharakah is growing, and it has a lot of existence, but not the Mudaraba. Mudaraba, we lack Mudaraba. And the primary reason for lacking of Mudaraba is the trust part. And there is a lot of mistrust, and because it involves a huge task. I mean, at the lower level, personal level, people do have a lot of Mudaraba activities, but on a large scale, it is not existing. And so, as per the Murabaha is almost guaranteed income, so it is quite popular. But Musharakah is being used. I mean, as I explained to you, Musharakah is used for especially financing the real estate and the buying of the businesses, and a lot of investment is going on under Musharakah, especially housing, finance, and everything. Mudaraba has an issue of trust. I hope I've cleared it. Thank you.
One more question by Dr. Waqar Ahmad Saab. Dr. Waqar Saab, please ask your question.
Yeah. I have two questions, Dr. Kaleem.
Yes, please.
One is why Murabaha and Ijara has taken over, rather diminished the Musharakah part of
what has taken over again?
Why Murabaha and Ijara have become more popular as compared to Musharakah?
I just answered that question. That is because of it is less risky. There is almost guaranteed income there, because Murabaha means agreed sales price. I mean, once you have agreed into, let's say, 500,000 rupees thing for 600,000, you have agreed into it. So there is a guaranteed income. There is no question of much risk in it. While in Musharakah, you have a risk. There is a risk. I mean, even in Ijara, there is, I mean, agreement. There could be risk in it, especially when as explained in the Musharakah for the buying a house, where you are agreeing through using Ijara instrument, and where the Ijara, which is rent or lease, could go up or go down. I mean, like I'm in Jeddah now. I mean, the rentals has gone down drastically here since US now. So anyone who has leased based on this, his rental income would go down. So there is risk in the Ijara, but Murabaha is almost risk-free. Yes?
That's another question is that when we talk about Ijara between buyer and seller, diminishing partnership.
Diminishing partnership.
Yeah, don't we hit the concept of bayatan fil bay? the hadith prohibiting or discouraging bayatain fil bay is hit by this concept of ijara between buyer and seller. This is my feeling. How you will react to this?
I mean, you're in, as I mentioned in that you're entering into the agreement separately.
With the same person, with the same intent.
Same person. So it can, I mean, you can enter in a different, I mean, it is irrespective. I mean, you have bought it. I mean, it's all agreed, in fact. I mean, you have bought it for what? So you are sharing the, I mean, rest of the income. I mean, he wants to buy your share of the housing which you have. Like, I mean, as I put an example, 75% of the share he needs to buy. So you're sharing the income from the rent. You have entered into this lease agreement separately from the buying agreement.
See, I understand. You
I understand.
having agreement with the same person, always different document.
Again,
Fitting the object of a bayatain fil bay by documentation. Won't you agree? I will not agree with you.
No, I couldn't follow.
Sir, this entering agreement with the same two parties with different documents with the same persons, does this defeat the spirit of bayatain fil bay?
You can say
persons
that
are same. Parties are same.
Do you have a solution to that? Do you have a solution to that?
No, I'm not presenting a solution. Sir, my last question is, where does joint stock company fit? Is it a Musharakah or what is the arrangement?
It is a, I mean, Musharakah to me.
Musharakah.
Yeah, it's you're entering into equity ownership, is equity milk, and you are sharing the profit in the shape of the dividend.
Not Mudaraba.
No.
Practically, the shareholders are not doing anything. They are persons in charge are doing all the things.
That's so true.
Even then, it's Musharakah.
That's true.
Thank you, sir.
But in the annual general meeting, you appoint the people to do that.
Yeah, please. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can't defeat.
हेलो
जी
आवाज आ रही है मेरी
बहुत साफ
चलिए
there is one how Musharakah is different from Ijara when it comes about house financing and which one is more beneficial. It is different, and it is especially when in the house financing, it is Musharakah with Ijara is useful, and which is being practiced. But you can use it like if you're trying to buy, let's say, a car, then normally Ijara is used. And at the end, what they do is normally you have to pay a rental until they sort of a diminishing Ijara, and then at the end you pay a lump sum and buy for example, buying the car or any other property, any machinery and so on. This was for Ms. Shibana's.
Anybody?
Question Muhammad Salim in question box. How to share the ownership of property every month?
How to share ownership of the property?
It reads, how to share the ownership of the property every month where there is no legal means to do it, Islamic finance not in implementation.
It's not the question of Islamic law being implemented or not. It is a partnership agreement which can be entered into even through the Indian legal system. once you have agreed, the only issue is with the ownership. I mean, normally due to double taxation and taxation over when you are transferring the ownership in India, it's an issue, but the ownership is, I mean, is between the, I mean, the buyer and the financer. So you are basically for the income rental, it will be, they would be providing with what do you call, I'm forgetting the word. It's sort of a document which is relates to your payment being received. So as the Dr. Shaikh Nizamuddin asked for the first at the start of the seminar, I mean, at start of this presentation, that what will be in Indian context. In Indian context, we have to relook, I mean, to our demand for the ownership issue, which is which will become extra burden when you are transferring between two people.
And Dr. Kalim,
yes,
there are two entities of two different nationalities.
G.
Whereas one entity from the outside want to invest in a specific country where the regulations of the law or the rules that doesn't permit this kind of this thing, contract or kind of what you can see is a Islamic finance or that kind of concept, because their very rule is based on interest. So two corporates are there. Now it's a global, and you can play a game outside and can bring the ball inside in a country where that doesn't support the very concept of Islamic finance or that kind of participation.
No, I couldn't follow your question. You can. I mean, there are two corporates outside a country, or one is inside a country and the other is outside.
Outside.
So one is internal, one is an external.
Yes.
And they want to come in as a, I mean, as Islamic finance. I mean, what they are looking for.
Islamic finance. Can they do the contract outside and they can do the business inside where the law doesn't permit?
This is not the, I mean, this issue is not much to do with the Islamic finance. It is possible, but as you know, the issue which is going on with the Vodafone, with Sharin, the British, I mean, oil company, they have entered into agreement outside India under the offshore agreements, and then they have brought the money inside India. And so the government of India wants to tax them. Whereas actually they should not be taxed, because India has already an agreement with those countries. I mean, even Vodafone is through, I think it's through Norway, I think, or Netherlands, where they had an agreement with them on taxation. So taxation haven countries through which countries come, a lot of countries, I mean, especially in case of India, the government of India has taken it up to tax them. So it is not impossible. It is happening, but it's a sort of how they say manage the taxation instead of avoiding the taxation. So if you remember, Dr. P. Chidambaram, he wanted to introduce tax avoidance tax. So the countries which are originally from one country, they try to move the funds through another island or tax haven countries or on islands. So he wanted to introduce such a, but in case of India, I mean, India is a SAARC country. We cannot talk of the Pakistan, but you can always talk of the Maldives, which is a part of the SAARC. And Maldives has Islamic Bank. So it can be collaborated with them. Sri Lanka has an Islamic Bank. And through the SAARC, I mean, our SAARC is not very strong, which can be strengthened, and you can benefit from the Sri Lanka, from Maldives, from Bangladesh, if the relationship improves. I hope I was able to answer you.
Right.
If you have it further into it, you can ask me.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, please? Let me see.
No more questions. Please proceed.
There is one more question. I will read it for you.
Yeah.
And that is from Muhammad Salim. In fact, he has got two questions. How to share the ownership of property every month where there is no legal means to do it. Oh, we have done with that.
It has been taken.
The next question, it says that if one party defaults, partnership deed can't be enforced unless the ownership registered with the registrar of properties. What would be the solution, please?
That's true. That's true. It cannot be enforced because it is not registered, but it is not that simple as it is, because still the legal papers work in India. There will be an issues of taxation since it is, I mean, especially if the second party, but as per the questions, the second party's term hasn't come of the ownership. So the property is registered property. I mean, if you're buying it, it says it should be registered property. You're not buying anything illegal property. And in different places, they use power of attorney. So there are different legal means which proves the ownership. So legal process can be proceeded. It's not impossible thing, and a lot of legal works goes on. But just to avoid the twice paying the government's fee on a same property, people normally avoid putting it into going for the registration at the first instant.
Thank you. Any more question, please? Right. Since there are no more questions, so thank you, Dr. Kadeem Alam, for a nice presentation.
Thank you.
So we are here at the last leg of this session, which will be the presidential address. May I request Professor Javed Ahmed Khan to take up, please.
Thank you very much, Anwar Sahab. And first of all, I am grateful to Institute of Objective Studies has given me chance to share this very academic session by Dr. Kaleem Alam. Kaleem Alam has spoken on the core of Islamic banking and finance industry. He has taken the theme or topic, Musharakah or Mudaraba, that was in fact the dream of the Islamic economist in the early 1970s, when they thought that they are going to present an alternative of the capitalism or socialism in the modern world. It was a challenge, of course it was, and still it is. So the core issue of Islamic finance that Dr. Kaleem has talked about very efficiently, I believe. And he has answered with such a resilience all the questions that a number of questions were not related to his theoretical discussion. Nonetheless, he has given very satisfactory answer to it also. When we talk about the modern development of Islamic banking and finance, we generally relate it with our Sharia principles, and we want to get all the solutions with one scholar or one book. We just forget that this 3 or 4 decades development in Islamic banking and finance is facing challenge with the 300, 400 years old development of capitalism and socialism, their banking system. And in that context, we also forget that whatever development Islamic banking has taken place or financial activities has taken place is an open economic competitive market with the financial world, which is based on riba or interest. Here, a number of difficulties comes when one study or talk about its possibility or its viability in modern times. Bakar Anwar Sahab has raised the question, even Yusra Zainab has raised the questions, which are actually in search of the empirical studies. We don't know how the behavior of the Muslim world or those who are practicing Islamic finance is going to be shaped in the futures. Islamic finance literature is not so modern that we can all answer every question that are being asked, that how it is possible, how it is not possible, whether Sharia can be applied. For example, the behavior of the Muslim investors, we are still not certain if Islamic finance is going into trouble, whether the Muslim will opt it or not, or they will just jump over to the modern banking system. All these are required in the future also. This is one aspect. Another thing we have to take into account, and that debt and equity are two roots of business activity. Dr. Kaleem Alam has given, from the very beginning of his lecture, he has said how it was being practiced in early Islamic period. So, in Quran also, both are mentioned, debt and equity. And it is prescribed, it is advised, or we have been informed that we are not to go to the debt financing, which is riba based, interest based, usury based, or bayaj based. All these words I'm using relate to the other communities also, where the interest is not taken in a very positive way. Every society dislike or do not consider it a positive thing, this interest or fixed rate of earning. So even in Islamic period or before Islam, the two routes of financing were there. And even in 21st century, the same two routes are still there. Islamic finance literature since last three or 4 or 5 decades is not arguing that we should not go to the interest-based financing. We should apply the Musharakah or equity-based. This modern thinking, what Dr. Kaleem Alam has brought today is that we are arguing for the viability of a profit-sharing system. Which in modern times you find in the mutual fund industry, stock market, or equity funds. We can run the spirit of Islam in our financial activities even today without implementing the Muslim and Islamic state. In India, for example, there are chances of investing through the Sharia-based financing in the equity market. There are several institutions have come that can help you. So the problem with the Mudaraba and Musharakah financing, as has been raised in several questions also, are related to, I think, mostly with the prevailing rules and regulations of the particular country. In India, I doubt the diminishing Musharakah, what Khalim Alam has mentioned, can be applicable or not. How the rules, the real estate rules or government's rules apply. Similarly, we are also I just missed the point. Yes, you know, this Musharakah and Mudaraba now both are being applied jointly in various Islamic project financing. Dr. Waqar Anwar Sahab has raised the question that with the Ijara and Musharakah, who is dominating? Of course, the Mudaraba is dominating at present. All 80% business activities are done through the Mudaraba financing. But it does not mean that Islamic finance or the spirit of Islamic finance is going down. It simply means that, to my mind, that we are in a very competitive open economic system. We have to survive also. So investors and both the depositors have taken a very safe route for their survivals, and they are adopting 80% of their business activities through the Islamic debt financing, Mudaraba, Ijara, all that things. So in this way, what is the prospect of Musharakah in modern times, in 21st century? I think this is the core theme of Dr. Khalim Alam's lecture, and he's right that there is need to go further into detail, how it can be done, and how the modern institutions are running with the same spirits. Question is how this Musharakah technique or methods can be applied with the mutual fund industry, equity fund markets, stock markets, or similar other things. And this is what is required at present. This is my brief comment, and I congratulate Dr. Khalim Alam that he has so clearly given the concept. He has earlier spoken to my university also, Jamia Millia Islamia. In October, he spoke on the Islamic concept of money. It was very, very useful. So I wish him that he could go on doing like this in future, inshallah. We hope something more critical and more practical. So this is what I can say at present. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Javed Ahmed Khan. Thank you very much. Yes, certainly, as you said, we will keep on hunting Dr. Khalim Alam again and again to have more discourses, more discussions on this issue. And as you know, IS is pursuing this particular subject since a long time. And someday I find a ray of hope or a silver lining at the end of the tunnel, inshallah.
Sure.
Right, sir? And last but not the least, let me thank all of you, particularly Professor Javed Ahmed Khan, who has presided over this session, giving his time, attending the entire session, listening to it, and providing his overview on what has been discussed in this session. I thank Dr. Khalim Alam. I don't know whether I should thank him or not. So, but right from Jeddah. He has spared the time and he has given a nice speech on the subject, on the theme provided to him. And inshallah, in the future also, we'll keep on discussing more on that. So we'll bring more clarity in our own mind. What the subject is, what is the depth of the subject is, where we sit in this part of the world. And I thank you for the staff of iOS and all the participants here. And inshallah, we'll meet you again and again and again. Thank you very much. Fi amanillah.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Shukran.